Want to know why your home didn't sell and what you can do about it? Hi, I'm Dan, a lawn broker associate with Remax All Pro. In over 20 years in the business, I've specialized in helping expired and canceled listings and for sale by owners. And in 20 years in the business, I've seen three specific things that prevent homes from selling. Number one is price. A lot of sellers make the mistake of overpricing a property. Price is not a direct science. Price is a moment in time. The market is dynamic and fluid. The price today might be different tomorrow, and I'll explain the factors. It might be different in a week or a month since you've listed or put your home on the market. Now, a lot of sellers make the mistake of overpricing a property for several reasons. Let's take a hypothetical number. The median home price right now in California is about $850,000 or so on average. So let's use that as an example. If a seller home, let's say, is worth $900,000, but let's say they owe $600,000 on the property, they want to net an additional $300,000 after all fees, commission, escrow, and titles paid. And so sometimes they make a mistake of pricing it to compensate to cover the money they owe so they can walk away with what they're looking for. The unfortunate thing is what you owe or what you need has nothing to do with market value, what a buyer's willing to pay and what a lender is willing to lend. So here's the thing which drives me crazy. Every homeowner believes their home is worth more than it is, and I understand. It's their equity, it's their money. That makes sense. The challenge is oftentimes agents will tell the sellers whatever they want to hear just to take a listing for several reasons. Number one, the agent doesn't know the market or knows pricing. Number two, their attitude is, let me just get the listing. It's not all agents, but some agents, and I'll be able to leverage this property through open houses, through marketing, because agents know that even if the property doesn't sell, a good listing can attract 2 to 3 more prospective buyers. So they're using your listing as a bait. The other thing is, a lot of coaches have trained real estate agents throughout the years, take a listing, because one of two things will happen. If you take a listing hypothetically for 6 months or whatever the amount is of your contract, which are all negotiable, two things will happen. The market could catch up with the seller or the seller will be motivated. Not a good thing to do though. But price is an objective conversation. Price is a moment in time. And price is determined by your active competition, homes that are similar to yours within a mile radius that other buyers would compare and would consider in purchasing. And when looking at your competition, you can't just be, even if your property is better in terms of the features and benefit, you can't just randomly price the property higher than everybody else in order to become the next sale in the area. You also have to look at days on the market with regards to competition. Homes that are currently on the market and especially have days on the market are basically, the market's telling you that buyers are bypassing those. So several things sellers do. Some sellers are in a hurry and they price their home just below market value with the intention of getting it sold quickly and potentially even get multiple offers. And that one strategy that some sellers and some agents use. Some sellers price it not in a hurry, but they want to price it and sell within a reasonable time. Then they price it at or close to market value. And then there are sellers who want to take a shot and say, I'm not in a hurry, the market will change. And it's an option, and they list it above market value. Now, when you're listing property, remember one thing. Even if a buyer is willing to pay your price, for the most part, the average buyer is going to get a loan or a mortgage from a lender. the lender is going to send an appraiser that ultimately is going to go out, do research, and find 3 similar properties that have sold within the last 6 months or less, preferably within 3 months, within a mile radius or less, that are similar. Same about square footage, bedrooms and bathroom, and will tell the lender if the property is worth what the buyer is willing to pay. If the appraiser says the property is not worth that price, the lender is not going to lend on that. And now the buyers are in square one, have lost some time. So when you're looking at pricing, you got to think like a consumer. Hypothetically, let's say you went shopping for a computer, very fancy computer. And if you found your perfect computer for, let's say, $1,000, I'm sure you're going to be looking around for a similar computer before you just buy it. So let's say a computer in store A is offered for $1,000. In store B, the same computer is offered for the same $1,000, but now it's giving you a faster processor that's worth maybe another $500 for the same price, which would be a better value. Okay, what if the second store that's offering you the faster processor is going to charge you an additional $500 more, which would be a better benefit now as you comparison shop? See, buyers think just like that. In order for buyers to buy, they're looking to have more features and benefits for the same price or have a lower price. So you got to think just like that. Pricing it just based on need and based on what you're trying to will not get you what you want, will just cause headache. Pricing it correctly is important. Now, again, looking at active listings gives you your competition. Looking at recent sold, similar homes that have sold within a reasonable time, the last 6 months or less, within a mile radius or less, they're within about 20% of your square footage above or below. Some people say 25%, some people say 30%. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of trying to compare apples to oranges. Recent sales told us, or tells us, should I say, what buyers are willing to pay or have paid in the past. It doesn't mean that that's exactly what's going to happen in the future. Pricing is number one for most buyers. Most buyers that search on the internet, their number one priority is price. So in order for you to attract, you need to price competitively. And that's one of the main reasons homes don't sell. Number two, and again, some of the reasons I'm giving you here is not necessarily in that order, is the presentation. When you put your home on the market, you want to make sure, especially in the first few weeks, your best chance of getting market price or even potentially having multiple offers is in the first 2 weeks of the listing when it's fresh. You want to make sure your curb appeal is good. You want to make sure the property is decluttered. You want to make sure it's clean, it shows well, it smells well. There's no offending smells of pets or smoking that could turn a buyer off. You want to make sure the property is easily and accessible to showings. Very, very important. And you want to make sure that ultimately you're eliminating as many restrictions to showing as possible, if it is possible. Because the reality is busy agents that have to set appointments or 24-hour appointments typically will bypass that over a property that is go direct, that's vacant, or potentially a property that has owner occupied, but maybe half hour to an hour, 2 hour notice. The longer the restriction, the less prospective buyers and agents you're going to get in, just because it's making it more impossible to show. So you want to make sure your presentation is great. The photos are crisp. The description is accurate. You have no idea how many times in my career I've seen descriptions, especially properties in Santa Clarita that are based on tracks that have the wrong track code or even have the wrong area. I've even seen in the Antelope Valley, properties that are listed that have the wrong area. And could that cost you? Absolutely. So having the property show well, easily accessible is important. It needs to show well on every showing. And there's more to that, but that's good enough for this particular video to get you going. So price, showing, and accessibility is important. Number 3, the marketing, separating your property from the competition. You may or may not be aware of there's 2 different ways of marketing property. There's the passive marketing, which what 99% of the agents do. What do all agents do? They put a sign in the yard, pretty basic. They put the property on the multiple listing service, the MLS, which is a great tool, but by itself, it's not enough. A tool is only as good as the tool maker or the tool user, if that makes sense. Now, MLS doesn't sell homes. MLS helps expose the home and syndicates to different websites. If the MLS would have sold homes, for example, we're in March of 2026, in the Antelope Valley, we have over 4 months worth of inventory, meaning that if no other home comes on the market, that's how long it would take to sell all the inventory. Traditionally, at least 50% of all homes don't sell with, about 50% don't sell with the first agent. And if they weren't sell, you wouldn't have as many expired or canceled listings. So clearly the MLS by itself doesn't sell home. It's a phenomenal tool that reaches out to more buyers, to more agents that have buyers, but your property can be lost as a needle in a haystack in the MLS if it's not done correctly and if it's just sitting out there. So let's go back to passive marketing. What do all agents do? Put a sign in the yard, put the property in the MLS, multiple listing service, put them on hundreds of websites. They might take professional photos. They might do a virtual tour. They might even do some open houses. And they might even do a broker's open. What happens after that? Most agents sit and pray and wait for a buyer to come by or an agent to bring in a buyer. You see what I mean by passive marketing? It's doing an action and then waiting. It's not predictable. In order for you to sell your house for the most money possible and as quickly as possible, your property needs to stand out to agents that have buyers and to the public. And you need active and aggressive marketing. You got to make sure that your agent that you hire is out there looking for buyers for you as well as your other sellers and constantly separating your property actively and aggressively to all the agents in the marketplace that have buyer in your price range and all the buyers that are looking in the area or potentially from out of the area that could come into your area. Now, in 20 years, the good news that I've seen is homes that didn't sell the first time, and sometimes I've seen homes that didn't sell a second or third time, can still sell. It's not necessarily the home. Sometimes it might not even be the price. It could be the strategy. If you're interested in finding out why your home didn't sell, reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to share with you the active and aggressive approach that I use to make my listings stand out. If you like this video, click like, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and feel free to share with others.